This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us at WZRD Maria Stone. She is Community Relations Manager at the Chicago Park District. Welcome, Maria.
Hi, Trudy. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you so much. Try not to mention my name if you can.
Oh,
Yeah. So, Maria, you have been with working in this position for 10 years, but before that, you were also with the Friends of the Parks. What was your position there, and how did you transition between the two?
well, when I was at Friends of the Parks, I was the neighborhood parks director and I worked with advisory councils. And when I had the opportunity to come to the park district for this role, it was a very easy transition as I was already creating those relationships with the advisory councils across the city.
Well, when you were with the Friends of the Parks, and of course, there's always different collaborations that you have to work at. So when you became a community relations manager, you must have had more experience, and you would be very understanding of the needs of the community, more understanding than maybe other community relations managers. So what was how did you capitalize on that experience?
Well, my previous experience at Friends of the Parks helped me build relationships within the park district. So when I came to the park district, I already knew the various different department heads, program managers who I've been working with for a number of years already. So it's really helpful to help me continue elevating and supporting the park advisory councils.
Oftentimes at the park advisory councils, their concerns are similar across different parks. One of which is trying to address vandals and address crime with cameras and all that. Did you have any experience with that? And then were you able to uh, help alleviate some of those concerns and bring a more closer working relationship between the Chicago Park District and the Park Advisory Councils?
Well, for a lot of advisory councils and communities across Chicago, crime is a great concern. And what we've been able to do with advisory councils and the Park District and communities is work in collaboration with other partners as well, like CAPS, the police departments, and we have a security team here at the Park District who also has relationships within our sister agencies.
When I looked up some of the meeting minutes of Wicker Park Park Advisory Council, and that was in a meeting in 2013, they expressed the same concerns that I've been seeing at the recent Park Advisory Council meetings that I participated in, which was how to access cameras. The cameras are there. It's such a labyrinth of bureaucracy to uh, speak with whom and whom will have to speak with whom in order to access certain footage.
Well, that's with security cam and that's there's not one perfect answer because it always depends upon who has jurisdiction over that camera and there's a process like you'd work with our security department or OEMC or the police department. It all depends whose camera it is.
Mhm. Well, do you feel that the situation now is different from where it was 5 years ago and maybe even 10 years ago?
I think now we have more partnerships, more initiatives throughout the city. Um, we have different agency initiatives that communities can tap into
Mhm. Mhm.
to help address their security concerns.
Mhm. And do those initiatives help the Park Advisory Council members? Are they do they feel that they're getting a better response now to address their concerns?
I, I don't have an answer for that.
That's okay. Well, let's talk about a little more fun stuff.
Mhm.
The events that you're putting together, such as reggae music and different types of African American musical events.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, there are you have you're a community relations manager, and then also you do you have a hand in uh, furthering events like there were some
Ah,
reggae events, African American uh, events at the parks.
okay, so we have a department, the Night Out in the Parks department, who curates hundreds of free events in parks across the city all summer long. So we did put out a survey for community members, advisory councils, um, all Chicago residents, like what would you like to see in your parks next summer? So the community has had the opportunity to weigh in on events they'd like to see happen. Um, our Night Out in the Parks program, it's very diverse. As you just mentioned, there could be Caribbean dancing to hip hop opera in the parks. Whoever comes to us and pitches their artistic talent, there's always an opportunity. But what's really great about advisory councils is they too bring events to parks. Diverse events. You have the Ada Park Advisory Council who puts on a folk and roots festival every single year for um, over 10 years already, which is bringing various different cultures to their parks. You have another advisory council who celebrates Black History Month at Loyola Park every single year, bringing all of the talent there. So it's a collaboration between what the park district is offering in the summer and then advisory councils wanting more in their parks.
There are some organizations that would love to hold events at the Chicago parks, and sometimes they find the bureaucracy is pretty strenuous because there's like you have to fill out insurance and this and that. Is there any way as community relations manager that you could help these organizations uh, do all these preliminaries so that they could do their events because I've known of numerous organizations that just gave up because there was too much planning and too much paperwork.
I wish I had an easy fix for that one. Um, what I would suggest is working with the park staff, and we have a whole team in permits and revenue who help answer any kind of questions and navigate through the system.
How has permits and revenue changed over the years for organizations that want to hold events at the parks?
I don't really have an answer for that.
Mm. And then what about if the Park Advisory Council were to sponsor an event? Would that make it easier for an organization to hold their event if the Advisory Council actually sponsored it and brought it in instead
Well,
of
advisory councils do sponsor events. And it's a variety of different things. They could always have partners, but we always want to make sure that it's the advisory council hosting the event.
Mhm, got it. When when partners come to you to bring programming to the park, uh, could you give us a guide about what organizations like to come to you? How have these organizations changed over the years? What is the focus of programming? Lots of questions. Take your time. I'll just yeah, one at a time.
Um, when partners come, I'm the community engagement manager, so I'm a connector. So I work directly with park advisory councils, but if there's other organizations or other groups, I make sure to connect them with the right person in the various departments. Because it's really important that community works on the park level. The park supervisors, the area manager, the program leads, because they're the ones who oversee those particular parks and programs. So I always want to make sure that we're making those connections and you're having that relationship with the park staff. And then they can guide them to see, like, is this a good fit? Is this partnership a good fit, whether it's a sports group or an education class, or an arts class, things like that. And they always work, like, you always want to work with the park supervisor.
And what makes a good fit? Is it just based on community likes or logistics? What makes
I
it?
think it's a number of things. Logistics, the calendar. I mean, we might have classes that are similar, or we might be booked at a particular time. Um, it could be space. It's just there's not enough space for um in a small playground to run, like, let's say, a soccer league. Um, but having a kid's musician with a guitar, like, yeah, we have the space for that. So it always there's a lot of different factors that play into it.
Hmm. So what are the problems that they usually encounter? It's just that they don't know whom in the park staff to speak with, or are there other problems that you help uh, to fire shoot?
Well, it could be like who the contact is. It could be the forms, filling that out, a little like answering those questions. Um, it could be the turnaround time. Um, you will always want to give enough time for the application to work its way through the process. It yeah, context, time, process.
There was a recent event in Rogers Park, like Taste of Rogers Park at Dewey Park. So how does do they have to plan out, or were they? I know that they were talking about it maybe a couple of months in advance, but was that enough time for them to do it? Because I didn't come aboard until at that time. Did they have to start like a year in advance for something as big as that?
Um, I'm not very familiar with that event, but what I can say is that our permit application processed in November for 2025. So already in November, individuals were already submitting their paperwork. Just from what I've noticed in the pack world, if you're doing a complicated large event, you do want to give it some time to plan out because you want to make sure the data is available, you secured your sponsors, you secured the restaurants, the insurances, the tables, the logistical things like that. So if you're doing a more complicated event, you absolutely want to give it more than, a month, 2 months, to plan that so that you're successful.
Could you give us some examples without going into names about certain challenges that you were able to help park advisory councils overcome, and also later after that that you were able to help organizations overcome if you have a role in that.
But when it comes to advisory councils, I like to think of myself like a counselor. And advisory councils are groups made of neighbors, community members, strangers, and there's always, more often than not, unfortunately, there's internal strife within the organization. It could be a difference of opinions, it could be the tone of somebody's voice, it could be just not understanding one another. So I've had to come in a lot to help advisory councils overcome these internal conflicts, to help them be stronger together. So that is one thing. We offer trainings, we offer mentorship, we offer helping them find connections. to overcome whatever issues that particular advisory council may have. It also could be because there's, you know, people in advisory councils, they're doing it because they love their park, but they might not have experience leading a team, being a secretary, being a treasurer. So by offering them mentorship and trainings, we help them help their park in that way to be the best advisory council leader that they can be.
And then what about organizations? Do you help organizations too that want to work through working with the park, or do they just start with the Park Advisory Council?
Well, we have a unit, the community engagement unit. So our team is always working with community groups to help them, and we will make a lot of connections. Like it seems like you should be talking to this person in a particular program, or connecting them with the park supervisor, or finding updates for them when it comes to a project. So our department, we're always connecting community groups, advisory councils with the park staff.
So you help with events, and what about with other challenges that parks sometimes face, such as homeless encampments? As a community relations manager, do you try to help resolve uh, those problems and bring in organizations who might be able to help people that must live in those encampments?
That is something that I have not had to participate in. But there are departments like within the city agencies who collaborate to help find a solution.
Mhm. So the park district does not have any hand in those
Oh, I personally, in my role, do not.
okay, but some other department, what department in the do you know in the Chicago Park District might be able to help with that?
Uh, Security, our natural resources department, the various different regions.
How many regions are there?
There are three regions:
And they are those regions?
North, Central, and South.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's a big, big city. We have a lot of parks.
Do you know which one came first?
The first park
Yeah,
that
first
I
region or
the
and first.
first region that I don't know. It is evolved from being multiple regions to three. There used to be a lakefront region. So now we're at three.
Mhm. Well, how about yourself? You your passion seems to be parks. How did this come about? What inspired you to dedicate your life to helping us have the community have greater parks?
Well, I grew up in Philadelphia, and when I moved to Chicago, it was astounding how our parks are set up and how passionate people are about parks. Growing up, I'd go to like my neighborhood park at Torresdale. There were no advisory councils. There wasn't camp or anything like that. I came to Chicago, and every neighborhood has a park, and every park is different, and every park has opportunities. And that was just so amazing. Like you could make a necklace in a park. You could take karate in a park. You could learn how to swim in a park. And then you have the people who are involved in their parks as a community member. It was just like, how could you not want to be a part of that? So when I was in grad school, I had an internship at Friends of the Park. So that's how I got involved there, and learning more about advisory councils and just all of the great, great things that the PACs do, but also how incredible the Chicago Park District is. Just we are incredibly lucky here in Chicago.
Yes, I grew up in Chicago as well. I thought that was just the way things are. It seems as if no. What?
No, and like even my husband grew up in Niagara Falls, New York. They don't have anything close to what we have here. So it's a really precious thing we have in Chicago, our parks.
Do you think it's on account of the proximity to the lakes? But no, right? Because your
No,
husband, yeah, no.
it's the commitment. I think it has to do with the commitment that the district had from even from the very beginning. Like we're 90 years old, and some of our parks are very old. And there's always been this commitment to providing park programming to people. And I've been at the park district 10 years. We have people who are retiring working here 53 years. And you have like our superintendent who is a park kid. She was a gymnast. Like you hear about the staff and like how they grew up in the parks. It's just incredible. 90 years we've been growing park kids, park people.
Mhm. And your degree was you were studying public administration, correct?
Yes. Hmm.
How did that help you in what you do?
Well, it helped me have a better understanding about how government works. Um, and also with my public administration degree, we learned about city planning, city budgets. I went to DePaul University, so we had David Orr as one of our professors. So he would bring in various different leaders in Chicago government to teach us how Chicago works. So I think it's really helpful. And also in the projects that we had to work on, um, how you learn about the various different processes and reasons within the government.
Well, I think then you have experience about the challenges sometimes those resources pose because there is that bureaucracy. Uh, h- do you see that there's any way that maybe the bureaucracy could be streamlined, or does it have to be the way it is in order for the parks to function well?
Well, what I've learned is that things do take a long time. And it's because we have processes to ensure things are vetted fairly, properly, within a system. And so when you have an idea, it's frustrating to the community because it cannot happen right away, um, especially if there's funding allocated to it, whether it's menu money, TIF money, state funding. So it's just learning more about the process so that there's less frustration.
What's the difference between park advisory councils in on the south side and those on the north side? Let's just as an example.
Um, I think
Different.
there's different interests, and there are more advisory councils on the south side there are than on the north side. Um, they might just do different kinds of events. They might I mean, obviously they're going to have different kinds of challenges. Their communities are going to want different kinds of things. But we have in the past year created a partnership program where we have advisory councils from different parts of the city collaborate with one another and learn from each other. And that's just such a beautiful thing. We have the Wicker Park Advisory Council partnered with the Bessemer Park Advisory Council, two completely different sides of the city, two different neighborhood vibes, but they talk to each other and learn from one another and help each other and hopefully work on a project this coming up year where they're sharing resources. And in certain parts of the South region, you have collaborations between the advisory councils, and I see more of that south than I do north. I'll give you an example. In Bronzeville, there's a Bronzeville Area Park Advisory Council coalition. So all of the advisory councils in Bronzeville, they meet quarterly, they check in with one another, they promote each other's events, they share resources, and they also want to make sure that they're not, having similar events, and they're also supporting one another.
That's beautiful.
It is a beautiful thing. Oh,
Could you give us an example of what the one park district learned from another park district?
Okay, so we had another example. We had the Winnemac Park Advisory Council and the Bartlemay Park Advisory Council. Both parks do not have a field house. Both parks host events. You imagine the challenges there, like how do you have events outdoors? And the Bartlemay Advisory Council has been super successful in hosting events, navigating the park district system, dealing with challenging community members. And they were able to mentor the Winnemac Pack, who just started, was planning some events in their parks, and they were able to help them figure it out and host a 4th of July event. Um, Hosting events without the field house. Like how did you do it? What did you do? So that was a really great collaboration to see them work together like that.
And what do Park Advisory Council say about getting more participation? Is it just promotion or is it, and what do you find as well? Does person to person, uh, is that more important than promotions? Because sometimes there are events in which it's very hard to get attendees.
Yeah, with advisory councils, and I just had this conversation on Friday with another group. They're trying to figure out what is their best way to hold meetings because there's a lot of seniors in the community. They've been having virtual meetings. They feel that they have a good attendance virtually, but the seniors aren't participating because they might not have the access. So trying to figure out, you know, a better way to have a meeting. Is it having a hybrid meeting where those who participate online can do that? It's a matter of having a laptop there. And then the seniors can come to the field house to participate that way. So that advisory council, they're trying to figure it out because there's an interest there. Some groups, depending upon what the issue is in their community, you might have 20 to 30 people attend, or you might just have the five. So historically, it's always been hard to have a lot of people like get more people to come to your meetings. And it could be just people might not know, right? So that's why having that flyer in the park is important. Some of them have banners promoting their meetings. Some of them, work with their local officials to help promote it because they have such a large mailing list. Or even like talking to the people in the park, it's like, come to our advisory council. And then when they're having events, it's also how are you promoting it to get the most people? Is it, banners help? Flyers help. Again, not everybody's on email, not everybody likes to use email. So it's making sure you find that balance between physically informing people, um, phone tree perhaps, and also making sure you do have that social media online presence. So it's about finding balance in everything.
How has how have the parks changed and uh, community relations changed after the pandemic?
Well, after the pandemic, we found that we're going to a lot more meetings. Like we're called on a lot to help with various different issues within the parks. Um, for a few years, a lot of the meetings were virtual. Now people are coming back in person, and you're having that connection. Like it's easy to have an online meeting, but like being in person, that's like where you make the real connections there. So we're doing that a lot more now. We're back. We're back. We're back in person. We had a conference last March. And for 3 years, we did it virtually. And last year was the first time we brought it back in person. And it was so incredible to see all of these advisory council members reconnecting, meeting for the first time. It was like online dating because they were only online, right? Online meetings. So now they're coming in person and it's just putting a face to the name. Um, Having the in-person opportunities is really important to grow your community and build your network.
The conference was for all the park advisory councils to
Yes.
meet together in one place.
in one place. It was called Power in the People. And we had 3 hours of sessions where advisory councils, park staff, experts in their field told their stories, shared their best practices to help PACs help their parks. And we're starting to plan next year's already.
That's what I wanted to ask you too. Do you have any idea about when that event will be?
Oh, it's going to be April 12th
April.
at Malcolm X College.
Okay. Do you have the time yet?
It'll be from 8:30 to 1:30.
Did
So
you?
it's a really great opportunity for advisory councils, but also people who are interested in forming an advisory council. They are welcome to attend as well because you're going to learn more for people who are already doing it.
What about people who care about the parks and users that might not have time to be active in the advisory council, but do want to have some input in how the parks are run?
Well, there's always advisory council. That's an easy one, right? Join your advisory council, but not everybody can do that. We do have means for community members to connect with the park district and let us know what they'd like to see in their parks to help our parks. We have monthly board meetings. We have a survey on our website. We have the park staff. And we do have community meetings like when we're doing framework plans or park improvements. You know, we always are welcoming, hoping the community come to share their input because the parks are for them.
How have their concerns changed? What are their current hot topics now for these participants?
Pickleball.
Yes, I heard about
We
that.
need more pickleball, indoor pickleball. Um, Smaller parks always ask for field house improvements. I'm just thinking of some of the most recent meetings. Some groups are asking for various different park improvements, whether it's to mitigate flooding in a park, to planting a native garden to help with water in their park. It could be, we need more senior programming. I've heard that. I'm just thinking, lots of things.
What about
Events.
what about programming for people with disabilities? They're very active now. They really want to participate more in everything, in work, in play, in everything. What about them?
Well, we do have multiple departments who help, who program special recreation programs. And there are quite a few sites, and you'll have to go to our website for this, that have very specific programming. But also, if there's something that you'd like to see happen in your park, you would reach out to them. We just helped sponsor a wheelchair basketball tournament at Broadway Armory Park. We have programming like that. The Special Olympics, there's a whole team dedicated to that. In the spring, we have the Special Olympics, right? So you have athletes training in parks, getting ready for the games. So there is a lot of programming. We have aids to help if you need it. We have special events for the deaf and hard of hearing community. So there's a lot of information on our website, and there are teams dedicated to ensuring that there's programs for everybody.
For that conference that you mentioned, were there any out of towners that came in as well? Because likely Chicago is becoming famous that for its parks if they're were that active.
Yeah, so this year we didn't have any participants from outside of Chicago, but when we were virtual, we had folks from Philadelphia attend, from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Um, because it was virtual, it was very easy to do that. But we do open it up. Like if someone from a suburb wanted to attend who has an advisory council, we would gladly welcome them because we have over 150 park advisory councils doing great things.
How many park advisory councils are there in the city? Do you know?
Let me give you a count here. So we have 150 park advisory councils who represent 250 parks. So we have parks who adopt other locations as well. Like, for example, Commercial Park adopted Snowberry, Honore, and Superior Playlot. So they have committee members who represent those particular parks. So it adds up.
What about dog parks? Are they increasing as well?
We Our most recent dog park opened 2 years ago at Calumet. So that's the most recent one. And we have over 20 dog-friendly areas. Um, in each region, there's a handful of them. So if someone were interested in having a dog park, there's a whole process where you'd have to have community involvement, funding, and you would reach out to the park district and we'd connect you with the lead on that to help community members establish dog-friendly areas.
Hmm. Do they sometimes involve like a separation between the big dogs or and the small dogs, or usually they're
There are some parks who actually have that separate area.
And what about as you mentioned, repairs to old field houses? Some field houses are really historic, but they are crumbling, such as the Leong Park uh, a field house. Any advice as to how to address those problems? Because it seems as if we would have to get funding, get funding on our own, get donations. Is there any way that some repairs can be done to make that field house more accessible?
Well, we do have a capital plan. So we would encourage community members, park advisory councils to work with their park staff, park supervisors, area managers. One beautiful thing that advisory councils have been able to do is be another voice when it comes to asking for additional funding for projects. And the Leon Beach, they did receive a grant for some improvements to their park, um, as well as other advisory councils, because there's so many parks, there's only so much within our budget. So having that outside funding, whether it's from your alderperson, your state rep, your UN, United States representative, your senator, um, community groups, advisory councils have been very helpful in helping secure those funds.
Yes, I know that there were funds allocated for the natural grasses, but not for the maintenance of the field house per se.
Yeah, so when there's repairs that need to be made, they're prioritized. Um, if it's something very serious, things move around, depending upon the level of necessity, and more funding always helps, of course.
And what's new? What do you envision that will be new in 2025?
2025, what do we have going on? Um, hmm. We were just talking about this and we were like, we should find out. We should find out. There's going to be some more pickleball courts being built. There are some major park renovations happening at the moment. I can tell you Jackie Robinson Field House is under construction. The Cragen Field House is under construction. Um, we're in the midst of planning for summer events when it comes out to night out in the parks. We're already talking about summer camp. Uh, we've already started hiring lifeguards for the summer. That's very important to ensure our pools and our beaches are safe. Um, 2025. It's going to be a good year.
And if our listeners want to access that survey, about inputting their suggestions, where should they go?
They should go to our website, chicagoparkdistrict.com, and I will send you a link I'll send you a link to it.
Thank you. And what else could folks participate in the Chicago Park District besides the survey and events? What else could they do?
Well, if you like to ice skate, our ice skating rinks are open through February, so grab today might not be the best day for it, but if you have skates, bring your skates. If not, we have skates there, so check out our skate ice skating in the parks. We have flower shows at the two conservatories, Lincoln Park and Garfield Park. Programming for winter has opened as of today. Just check our website out. We have a lot of great information, a lot of programs, a lot of events happening. Um, we have jobs coming up. There'll be more summer jobs posted within the next couple months. Um, and there'll be holiday events starting in the parks. I know that the Garfield Park Advisory Council puts on a wonderful Kwanzaa event in December. We also have a call out for artists who want to be considered for our Night Out in the Parks programming that actually closes on the 9th. We have our Parks Kids programming. So if anybody's interested in sponsoring as part of your holiday giving, Park Kids or Our Kids, that is to help sponsor youth programming, camp, and after school programming for kids in parks.
For the artists participation in the in which parks now in the uh,
Night Out in the parks.
night out in the parks. The deadline is today, and what would they submit for to sell their wares, meet the
No, to perform.
to perform?
Yeah,
Okay,
so they do take applications and for various different artists. So if you're an artist and you wanted to perform in a park, there is opportunities to do so.
could you send me that link to we'll share it
Absolutely.
around. So, and
Yep.
today later at 11:59, that's the deadline.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure glad that we interviewed with you. Well, Maria Stone, Community Relations Manager at the Chicago Park District. If our listeners want to learn more about your work, besides going to the Chicago Park District website, but even if they do, what sections should they concentrate on to learn more about your work and what your department is doing?
If they go to our website and they go to get involved, it's under Join an Advisory Council. Also, volunteer. We have a lot of volunteer program opportunities. So if folks wanted to not serve on an advisory council but volunteer in a park, we have a volunteer program where we can help set you up in groups to do meaningful work days in parks.
And please also send us the job link too for people to get hired.
Absolutely. If you can swim and want to be a lifeguard, we want you.
How many do you need? How like what percentage have been hired and how many more do you still need?
That I don't know, but we just started the classes. Um, there's a test coming up, but Trudy, I'll send you all that information.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maria Stone.
Thank you.